and welcome to another episode of the Elevated Beauty Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Fouts, and in today's episode, I wanted to talk about gut health. So, I'm going to be giving you guys some tips on how to encourage a healthy gut microbiome, how you may understand that you have an unhealthy one, and what a gut microbiome really is, the function of it, and how it affects our skin. So I want to start by saying that gut health can also be called our gut microbiome. And so what a microbiome is it is microorganisms in a particular environment. And I am speaking specifically on the microorganisms that exist in our gut, so in our intestines, our stomach. So they all play, the microorganisms do, they play a key role in our digestion, absorption and synthesis of nutrients. So you can also refer to the microorganisms as gut bugs. That's what I'm going to refer to them as. So they are bacteria that just naturally exist in our gut, but sometimes, we'll have an overgrowth of one versus the other. And they are involved in many other processes of the body, such as our metabolism, our body weight, our immunity regulation, our brain function, our mood, and our skin, of course. So there are factors that influence the type and amount of gut bugs that we host. And interestingly enough, each person has their own enterotype. So this is similar to a blood type, which is our own unique bacterial footprint. And so our bacterial footprint forms in utero, actually. And it can also be influenced by the genetics of our parents, if you're like breastfed or bottle fed, if you've experienced illness, just depending on what type of lifestyle or environment you live in, but most particularly diet. Diet is the most modifiable influence to our gut health. And like I mentioned before, everyone leads a different life and lives in different environments, and because of this, each of us have our own unique microbiome. And there's a lot that's yet to be understood with this, but we do know that a healthy gut primarily functions with a barrier that's effective at keeping gut contents such as microbiota and undigested food particles and toxins from escaping into the bloodstream. So once that happens, once your barrier function is weakened and those contents can leak into the bloodstream, you will experience a kickstart in your immune system, which leads to inflammation and other things. So this process of the toxins, undigested food particles, and microbiota leaking into your bloodstream because of an unhealthy barrier, that is also known as a leaky gut. And so how does that become imbalanced? Thus impairing your barrier function. So stress, illness, being overweight, and the overuse of antibiotics, poor quality diet, and like I said, diet's the most important factor. So I'm going to go over diet in a minute, but yeah, you definitely want to, if you think that you might have an impaired barrier function, if you think that your gut isn't healthy, then you want to implement a diverse diet. You want to exercise frequently and note how often you're taking antibiotics. So some foods that can contribute to an unhealthy gut are going to be artificial sweeteners, alcoholic beverages, fried foods, red meat, processed foods, and sugary soft drinks. These are things that I stay away from anyways, except for red meat. I do eat red meat, not super often actually though. So I would assume that I have a pretty healthy gut. But those are the 6 worst foods and beverages for your gut health. And I want to cut in here real quick and say that one way to know, or a couple ways to know, that you might have an impaired barrier function in your gut, that you have a leaky gut, is number 1, if your bowel movements aren't regular and they're not how they should be. And then also, if you're breaking out in this particular area, like on the sides of your face and your jawline, like nodule-like, very inflamed. And of course, this affects other things. It affects our energy, our immune function, like I already mentioned, our mood. So you might be feeling sluggish. You just don't feel good. You're breaking out. and you notice that you are eating a lot of these foods that I'm about to, or that I already mentioned. So I am now going to mention some foods that encourage a healthy microbiome. So of course, probiotics, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, and then let's see what else. So you can take supplements that have essential fatty acids in them, omega-3s, and to continue that list of some of the foods that you actually might have in your kitchen that can help to encourage a healthy microbiome and a healthy barrier function in your gut are going to be whole grains, apples, leeks, onions, garlic, cocoa extracts, bananas, asparagus, nuts. But if you are dealing with acne, you want to be careful with how many nuts, legumes you are ingesting, because they have phytoestrogens, which are similar to like the androgen hormone. And another common way that we know that androgen hormones kind of can cause acne, which, androgen exists in our bodies and it is essential, but if you have too much of it, it can cause a breakout, because it does increase our oil production. So like birth control method in the form of IUD, that's very commonly known to cause acne in women because of that androgen content in it or the progesterone content in it. So I am a big fan of nuts. That sounds weird to say, but I love almonds, and that is a safer one to go with versus peanuts, because they have a higher content of phytoestrogens and they also have a higher oil content. Okay, so besides nuts, seeds, red wine extracts, root vegetables, beans, lentils, chickpeas, and green tea extracts. Of course, like I already mentioned, prebiotics, and kombucha is actually something that you can drink that is really great with that. I personally hate it. I think it's gross. So if you made it this far, I hope that you learned some valuable information. This isn't information that I have known throughout my whole aesthetics career. It's something that I got into about maybe 4 years ago. And I was experiencing a lot of inflammation and inflammatory acne on the sides of my face as a result of my diet. And I was able to find a supplement that had cruciferous vegetables in it, and then also just control my intake of these foods that caused an unhealthy gut. I was really eating like really high fiber foods as well, which really stopped me up. But yeah, it is something that not a lot of people consider when treating acne is your gut health. So since I dove into acne and consider myself an acne specialist now, I just want to share this information with other people and hopefully help some of you. So yeah, hopefully this was valuable to you. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you next Monday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for another episode.